the Nissan GT-R R35 4-inch wide pipe back exhaust system. So starting off at the front of the car, although this would be the back of the engine, it's where the two downpipes come in on these stock fitment 2-bolt flanges. So the stock wide pipe is obviously a much smaller diameter, but these still fit onto the standard downpipes. This is a 2 3-inch bore pipes here that are used the same 2-bolt flange arrangement as the original wide pipe, with the same bolt patterns, so it'll fit any aftermarket decat that suits the kind of wide pipe back or wide pipe of the stock system as well. So that's where it starts, and then as we kind of move down, fully stainless steel interlock lined exhaust flexes. So these are your kind of standard premium aftermarket exhaust type flexi. So these have got an interlock liner, which means it's completely smooth. There's no kind of mesh in there or anything. It's completely smooth on the inside, yet still totally flexible. Obviously, the GT-R engine is pretty solidly mounted, and any movement it will have will be, taken up with these flexes. So that kind of takes a lot of stress off the rest of the exhaust system. One thing about the GT-R is that there's actually hardly any hanger brackets on the whole system, so most of the exhaust pretty much hangs off the downpipes, so it's really ideal to have a good pair of flexi sections in there. A lot of the kind of aftermarket systems, or at least the Far Eastern ones, tend to have flexis that I don't know why, they're just really stiff. So they are a flexible exhaust section, but they're nowhere near as flexible as they should be when you've got the weight of a stainless steel exhaust system hanging off them. That will also move around on the car. You want to try and take as much of that strain away from any weld joints at all. So, for example, if you've got a pair of aftermarket downpipes as well, a lot of them are known for cracking and fatiguing around the turbo flange area. Good quality exhaust flexes will definitely help that, because it takes stress away from there. So then coming down into the kind of first 4-inch pipe, we wire these in. That's what it's called, a wire pipe. So it's two 30-degree merges here, and then they're ovaled out into a 4-inch tube. And that's kind of about as big as you're ever really going to need to go. So 4-inch is pretty big. 3.5-inch has quite a considerable volume difference over 3-inch, but 4-inch is a considerable margin again in terms of volume over 3-inch. Even with the 2 3-inch, any kind of restriction realistically is going to come in at those 2 3-inch tubes there. There are some aftermarket systems that have 2 3.5-inch tubes into a 4-inch, and there probably will be gains, but we're probably talking at the far upper end of the 4-figure horsepower range. This is easily capable of 1,000 horsepower plus before you're really going to start to see any kind of restriction. And realistically, I think most of the cars that are pushing that kind of power tend to not have the exhaust come out the back anyway. So straight on down, V-bands throughout the whole system from this point onwards. So V-bands are perfect gas tight seal. One of the advantages of V-bands is not only are they easy to kind of clamp up and clamp off if you have to change them, or you're kind of removing or doing any kind of work on the car, you need to take them off. You don't have to worry too much about gaskets or nuts and bolts that seize. The V-bands are quick release type, and you will get a perfect gas tight seal every time because of that interlocking design, that kind of male and female aspect of a V-band flange that you don't get with a 2-bolt flange that requires a gasket. So these are definitely advantageous. They are more difficult to work with in terms of fabrication, and you don't get any kind of, other than a kind of rotational adjustability, there's no kind of in or out like you would get with a slip joint. And so from a fabrication perspective, it means that the whole exhaust system must be millimetre perfect, or you will have a fitment problem, because there's no way to actually adjust it. Coming on down the rest of the system now, this is where the first kind of hanger bracket comes in. Obviously, so we're kind of 1.5 meters down the exhaust system, and we've got our first hanger bracket. So yeah, that's why, you know, there's such emphasis on those high quality exhaust flexes, because we want to take as much strain off of any kind of weld joints as we can. Again, everything's fully TIG welded, so it's super accurate, strong, and obviously from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks a lot nicer than MIG welds. I'd be surprised if there are any MIG welded exhaust systems on the market for the GT-R, but you never know. But yeah, these are all hand welded, all TIG welded joints throughout the whole system, and again retains that 4-inch bore all the way down to the next V-band. So this is your kind of mid pipe. Again, the tolerance is on here. If you've ever seen the underfloor of a GT-R, you'll know that the cutout in the floor will take a 4-inch system, but definitely not with much movement either side. So yeah, again, this is where the accuracy comes in. It needs to be spot on in terms of accuracy, else you'll just get rattles, bangs. There's a big under tray on the GT-R, and yeah, if it's rubbing anywhere, you know, it's just going to be a nightmare in terms of rattles and bangs. All of our exhaust systems are not only TIG welded, but they're also fully back purged, so all of these joints are really as strong as they can be. Back purging is essentially filling the tube with argon gas prior to welding it. So the gas we use when we weld is high purity argon, and we pump that same gas inside the tube, and that pushes out all the oxygen, so that when we weld it, we get a perfectly pure weld on the inside as well as on the outside, which is as strong and looks as beautiful on the inside as it does on the outside. That's something that's very easy to hide in kind of product pictures if other manufacturers aren't doing it, and you'll find most of them don't, because it does add in quite a lot of cost and hassle from a fabrication perspective, but it is 100% worth doing. You know, if you look at any high-end kind of motorsport fabrication, they'll all be back purging their parts. You'll almost be laughed out of the room if you're not doing that. So onto this rear section. This is where things get even more tricky from a fabrication perspective. So we've got that 4-inch tube. We need to now try and get that out the back of the car with 4 tips. So there's tons of different ways of doing this. Again, I've seen it done loads of ways. Some ways are better than others, some ways are easier to fabricate than others. But in terms of a performance aspect, I think it's always better to keep that 4-inch diameter right at this flange. So this is where our kind of link pipe comes in, where we're going over the drive shaft, and we're splitting with 2 4-inch bends and then reducing them down into 3-inch silencers. So it just means that there can be absolutely no build-up of pressure in here, because we've instantly increased the volume at the point where we're splitting it down. So that does have some trade-offs in terms of increasing the volume at the back of the exhaust. We'll add in a bit of drone. It's not always the most desirable noise, but from experience on this system, that at idle speeds and at cruising speeds, you really don't notice it anyway. But it's certainly advantageous to keep that larger volume. So as we come out of that single 4-inch tube, we're splitting into what is basically 2 4-inch tubes. We've still got the same volume here, but as it opens out, we've kind of increased that volume by going into 2 4-inch tubes and then back down into 2 3-inch silencers. So there can just be absolutely no restrictions there, which again, when you are at those high 3 figures up into 4-figure horsepower, again, all these little kind of restrictions start to actually build up. Those percentages become really big. You know, 10% on 900 is quite a lot of horsepower to gain. Coming through to our standard type silencers, these are a completely straight through type silencer, so yeah, again, no restrictions in there. These will kind of take out a lot of the horrible noises you don't want from the system, but still make it more than loud enough that the kind of volume you'd expect from an R35 GT-R. Again, finished with V-bands. Even on the tip sections, I think it makes them far easier to fit, given the width of the back of a GT-R. And where these kind of attach, on the offside you've got the fuel filler and the inner wing, or the kind of rear wheel arch liner, makes that area a lot smaller than on the near side. So again, we've taken that into account with using the V-bands, because it just makes the whole thing a lot easier to fit when you can just push that pipe up there, clamp that V-band on. You don't have to worry about trying to get any nuts and bolts in there or anything like that. Just makes it a lot easier to fit. All the hanger brackets are fully reinforced. Again, up until this point, there's only been one hanger bracket on the whole system. Obviously, this is quite a lot of stainless steel. It's fairly heavy, so we want to make sure that these are fully reinforced. These are going to go nowhere. Obviously, it comes with a lifetime warranty, as you would expect from all our stainless steel components. But yeah, we try and build it so that you don't need that warranty, and it's quite easy to do in terms of just overbuilding, kind of over-engineering the kind of brackets and all the kind of stainless steel hardware that's involved to fit it. So coming on through now to the tip sections. Obviously, this is a 3-inch inlet, and again splits off into two 3-inch outlets. So up until this point, the exhaust system is pretty straight. Obviously, we split it at the back here to go either side, and this is where you see a lot of variation on the kind of big 3.5-inch and 4-inch systems on the market. The way they do these tip sections, there is a lot of variables and a lot of different ideas. The way we've chosen to do it is to come out of that 3-inch V-band, split into two 3-inch pipes, again increasing the volume right at the back of the system, where you would expect to find the restrictions the most. A lot of the time you'll see that they've kind of drilled a hole or whatever to take that outside tip or the inside tip, and it's just kind of teed off, sometimes quite crudely. Doing it this way, having that full merge, it just can't be, doing it this way, it just can't be bettered in terms of performance. This is clearly the best way to do it when you're looking to split exhaust gases, with that kind of 2-to-1 style merge. And again, obviously everything's fully TIG welded. Finished off with two big 5-inch inward rolled tips. We can accommodate different kinds of tips if it's something you're interested in. We can build pretty much anything. We use the 5-inch inward rolled ones as standard, but yeah, we can pretty much accommodate whatever you want. Quick release V-band clamps. One thing you'll find sometimes with V-band clamps is they're not quick release. It's always beneficial if they are, and a nice big diameter bolt running through there. Some of them are smaller. Again, it just makes everything's just kind of a bit stronger, a bit more built to last. Again, once you've undone these and done these up a few times, the poorer quality ones do tend to show. Most of the V-bands you buy are pretty good, but yeah, I mean, these are the ones we've been using for years now, so you can be pretty confident that they're not going to break, leaving you stranded on the side of the road with the exhaust hanging off. So all the V-band flanges we use have a kind of male and a female side. Again, it seems to be that some of them don't. I don't know why. It's one of the biggest advantages of a V-band style clamping system. There's no need for a gasket. So when those two halves come together, they interlock. And when it's clamped up, the V-band clamp kind of draws those two sides of the flange together, forcing them together, and it kind of forces them to seal. So there's no need for a gasket. You can remove this system, or any V-banded system, put it back on the car, just with the same clamps, no gaskets. As long as everything's clean, it'll seal up just fine. So it's a pretty decent advantage to have over a traditional 2-bolt style flange, or a 3-bolt, or a slip joint. These just don't leak. Yeah, I mean, the best thing about these R35 systems is that they are so much fun to make. The fact that all the tolerances are so tight you know, would, you'd think, make it a kind of something you'd enjoy less. But yeah, that, you know, they're kind of they're so tight tolerances that you know, you can really get nerdy with all of your kind of fitment before they're being welded. And yeah, this one's come out really well, so I'm really happy with how it looks. Obviously, our parts, the aesthetic plays a huge part. We're not just trying to build parts that perform well, we're also trying to build parts that look good, because you can do both. So yeah, you know, when you kind of finish up with something and you've kind of done all the finishing touches and you get it laid out on the bench, you can really see you know, where the time and the care and attention has really gone in, and yeah, it definitely shows.